Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and furthermore, welcome back to yet another spooktacular Halloween review. Tonight we are going to be taking a look at the Dungeons & Dragons Nosferatu miniatures, and the fact that you get two Nosferatu, a female and a male, leads me to believe that Nosferatu, at least in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, is not a singular individual, but rather a species of vampiric beings, judging by the fact that there is a male and female. Of course, you get translucent faces, two figures, you get this really cool card back of the packaging that has the dragon that we've come to see a lot in these packages for the miniatures, but it sometimes appears in different colors. We've had it in gold, we've had it in red, and now we have it in this cool blue color. It says the name of the creature, the Nosferatu. You got the Dungeons & Dragons logo there. You got Dungeons & Dragons down there. Ages 14+, D&D nolzurs Marvelous Miniatures. And then the back, you can see I paid about $7 for this. And then tax, which probably makes it about $8 or $9. Primed and paint ready out of the box. WizKids Nosferatu, nolzurs Marvelous Miniatures. Expand your collection at wizkids.com/unpainted. And then you have a glamour shot of the two figures, the male and the female, painted up quite nicely, with that image again of the dragon roaring angrily in this kind of hellish dungeon background, done in the cool blue colors. And then you got all that licensing stuff on the bottom there. But with all that being said, that pretty much wraps up the packaging on this Nosferatu 2-pack. So, without further ado, I'm going to take a few days to start slinging some paints and get these two put together. Don't go away, there's more terrifying Halloween review to be had. Quickly taking a look at the female here, and I do have to say right off the bat, the female is looking like my favorite of the two Nosferatu in the set, simply because I love how creepy she is. I love how her face is contorted in this inhuman, almost demonic scream. I love how she's got this really long, flowing, just gnarly looking black hair. I love how her hands are contorted to showcase her long, sharp-clawed fingers. And I love how she's in this hunched pose. These two figures specifically are giving me feral vampire vibes. As far as I know, when it comes to vampires in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, they specifically become feral like this when they haven't had access to blood in a while. And they become feral monsters similar to that which we've seen from Dracula in the Last Voyage of the Demeter movie. If you've seen that, where he's basically just this humanoid vampire creature that's like barely human. But here is the female, and I have painted her eyes. If it'll focus, come on. A blood red. And then I've sporadically splattered blood all over her, on her claws, over her chest. It does not want to focus on these things. On her chest, even a little bit on her knee. She's wearing like a tattered top with like some garbs around her crotch, some leggings, and I believe is wearing a sensor bra. I believe that's what that's called, a sensor bar bra. And yeah, very creepy. Definitely something I'd come to expect when it comes to, again, feral vampires. But that is the female. And here is the male, and the male I actually think looks quite disturbing. So it does have some sunken black eyes, which do have some red paint in there. Come on, focus. Camera! Focus! There we go. So, it has these sunken eyes, which do have red in them, but it just kind of gets lost in the blackness, which almost makes it look even creepier. It has a long black tongue, which almost reminds me of a creature that would use its tongue to impale prey and then drag it into its mouth. It's got all kinds of blood dripping from its mouth and onto its chest. Its claws are stained with blood, having the same tattered black clothes that I gave the female. I decided to give the male some raggedy looking dirtied brown claws. So, you know, we got the same kind of coat looking design there with like a skirt and some leggings, obviously torn to shreds like the female, but they are this time around a dirtied brown. And then the skin is a dirtied pale gray, and then I put some Terran rocks and kind of dirt onto the base to give it some more realism. And I, of course, swapped the translucent bases with the black bases. I don't know why I did that, because I ended up just covering up the black base anyway, but I prefer those bases over the translucent bases, even if I am just going to cover them up with some miniature rocks. But there is the male. And here are the male and female together, and I think I did a really good job. These two look absolutely horrifying. They could definitely star in like a Halloween-themed one-off Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Or if you want to have some vampires in a campaign, just as an enemy for your players to fight. They're making a bunch of pseudo-vampires by infecting villagers, you know, to do their bidding. That's a cool idea too, but these are definitely, at least the way I painted them, some truly disturbing and nightmarish looking miniatures. For comparison, I'm going to try to keep things in a spooky mood for the Halloween season, starting off with the Horde's Witchwood, the Dungeons & Dragons Zombie Beholder, the Deep Cuts Mothman, the Deep Cuts Skeleton Horse, Dungeons & Dragons Spider, Alright, for the comparison segment, I'm going to try to keep things spooky to stay on brand for the Halloween season, and I do have some horror-themed miniatures, starting off with the Horde's Witchwood, the Dungeons & Dragons Zombie Beholder, the Torture Rack, a spider, the Deep Cuts Mothman, and finally, the Deep Cuts Skeleton Horse. I think these are some pretty disturbing miniatures, and they are painted to the best of my ability, but I'm sure if you're a really good miniature painter, you can make these two look proper scary. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think of the Dungeons & Dragons Nolzurs Marvelous Miniatures Nosferatu 2-pack, and with all that, hope you guys enjoyed tonight's spooky Halloween review. Happy haunts, and I'll see you in the next frightfully fun Halloween video.